So, have you ever found yourself wondering what actually happens at the very end of life? I mean, it is arguably the greatest, most universal mystery of the entire human experience, right? Yet it remains his deeply unknown subject for literally all of us. We see it constantly portrayed in our favorite movies, written about in these sweeping dramatic novels, and whispered about in folklore. But when you strip away the Hollywood special effects, the swell of the cinematic music, and all those dramatic tropes, what's the real scoop? What is the actual biological and psychological reality of those final moments? Well, today, we're going to separate the dramatic fiction from the genuinely startling reality.
Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this fascinating material today. We are going to completely demystify the dying process through a psychological and scientific lens, drawing directly from some incredibly compelling source material on the topic. Together, we're going to unpack the 5 psychological facts about death. These are surprising, scientifically grounded insights that you might have never guessed. And honestly, they fundamentally change how we view the end of life. Our goal today is to give you a clear, structured understanding of this complex topic so you can walk away with a totally new perspective on something we, well, all must eventually face.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Fact number 1, the myth of old age and the reality of aging.
To understand how the journey actually begins, we have to absolutely shatter a super common misconception. We hear it all the time, right? People talk about someone passing away simply because they got too old. But science tells a remarkably different story. The myth is that you can actually die of old age. You've probably heard this phrasing countless times. But the reality is, you cannot actually die simply because you're getting old. Instead, what the source material reveals is that people often die from inactivity or the specific diseases that come with the aging process. It's a subtle but incredibly important distinction. As far as medical records show, old age has not been scientifically recognized as a direct cause of death. It is the bodily wear and tear, the inactivity, and the onset of illness that actually cause the end, not just the mere ticking of the biological clock.
Moving on to fact number 2, fading senses and white lights, the final experiences.
So now that we know how the end is triggered, what actually happens when the body's systems shut down? What goes first and, what holds on? Well, according to research, hearing is the last sense to go. Now, while it's noted that this isn't, 100% universally scientifically proven across every single case, medical director Zachary Pallas strongly believes that hearing is indeed the final sense to leave us when we die. He points out this really beautiful and poignant reality. When death seems near, family and friends instinctively gather around to share their last thoughts. When blood pressure drops and a person is physically fading out in a medical setting, professionals and loved ones often believe they can still hear what is being said. It's just a really powerful reminder that even when the body seems entirely unresponsive, that connection of sound and voice remains intact.
Which brings us to fact number 3, and perhaps the most famous final experience of the whole shebang. We have all seen it on the big screen, right? The camera pans up, the music swells, and the character looks toward a bright, blinding beam. I want you to think for a second. Is the white light just a movie trope designed to be dramatic? Or is there an actual basis for it in our biological reality? Believe it or not, people actually do see a white light at the end of the tunnel before they die. If you always thought movies only did this to be dramatic, it turns out they were actually onto something real. According to research by David Hovda from the UCLA Brain Injury Research Center, there's a very logical, physiological explanation for this. Right before it's time to go, most of the regions in your brain begin to shut down. As this shutdown occurs, it makes it incredibly hard for you to process things visually. Because the visual processing centers are literally failing, it's only possible for people to see a white light and nothing else. So that famous light isn't magic, it is the totally fascinating result of the brain's visual regions powering down for the final time.
All right, fact number 4, the out-of-body illusion, floating in space. So we know about fading hearing in the closing field of vision, but what about broader physical sensations? What feels like pure magic is actually totally explained by science. Out-of-body experiences are surprisingly common in near-death cases. But why? Well, researchers in Switzerland can actually explain this. Apparently, when you have a near-death experience, it causes the right side of your brain to be highly stimulated. This stimulation gives you what the researchers actually describe as sixth sense vibes. This localized brain activity can feel so incredibly intense that you may get the distinct, vivid sensation that your physical body is quite literally floating in space. It is basically a masterclass in how powerful our brain chemistry is, creating a profound illusion of weightlessness and separation from the physical form during a moment of extreme trauma.
And finally, fact number 5, transformational potential, facing the inevitable. Okay, so we've covered physical shutdowns, sensory changes, and incredible illusions. But why does understanding these facts actually matter to your present waking life? Here is the fifth and absolutely most crucial psychological fact. Facing death directly gives you a massive amount of transformational potential. We completely understand that death is a scary subject for many of us, but our attitudes towards it play a massive role in how we live today. As Dr. Stephen Taylor points out in our source material, when we face death directly and accept it for what it is, we can surpass anxieties and live our lives to the fullest. By looking at the science, the failing senses, the brain shutting down to a white light, the right brain stimulation causing that floating sensation, we strip away the terrifying unknown. We replace fear with understanding, and in doing so, we empower ourselves to stop worrying about the inevitable, which actually frees us up to truly embrace the time we have right now.
By pulling back the curtain on these 5 psychological facts, we see that the end of life is a deeply structured biological and psychological process, not just some dark, scary void. We've learned that hearing holds on to the very end, that age itself isn't what takes us, and that the brain crafts these profound experiences of light and weightlessness as it powers down. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to carry with you today. Now that you understand the reality of how the story ends, how will facing that end change your beginning? How will you use this knowledge to live more fully today? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll see you next time as we continue to unpack the fascinating world around us.